I want to tell you a story. It is an old story, a very old one, etched in the dust of a desert long ago. But like all great stories, it still speaks to us, whispering across the centuries. This is the story of a book called Leviticus. It lives right in the very heart of the Bible, a place many people hurry past. It has rules, you see, a great many of them. And in our fast-moving world, rules can feel like anchors when we wish for sails. But these rules were never meant to be a burden. They were a gift, a roadmap intended to help a wandering people live well, to keep them safe, and to draw them close to something good, something holy. Picture a vast and sprawling camp under a wide open sky. The air is thick with the smell of wood smoke, roasting meat, and the constant hum of life. In the very center of this bustling community, a single, magnificent tent stands apart from all the others. This is the tabernacle, a sacred space, a meeting place between the heavens and the earth. Around it, families live and work and dream. They cook their daily meals, they laugh with their children, they argue with their neighbors, they weep when they are hurt. They are ordinary people, just like you and me, wrestling with ordinary problems. They carry the weight of their mistakes and long for a way to feel clean and whole and safe again. This book, this ancient guide, was written for them. It offers a path. It begins by introducing us to a particular family, a tribe known as the Levites. From this tribe, a lineage of priests is chosen, men set apart for a special purpose. They are to be the caretakers of the tabernacle, the guardians of the sacred fire. They are the helpers, the teachers, the guides for the entire community. They are to lead the people in worship, to teach the laws that give life, and to show the way back for those who have stumbled and feel lost in the shadows. They are the spiritual doctors for the soul of a nation. The story of Leviticus is not just about grand ceremonies. It is about the texture of daily existence. It is about how a community learns to live together in a way that honors both God and one another. The laws it contains are like threads, weaving through every aspect of life, from the food on their plates to the way they treat a stranger at the edge of the camp. One of the central ideas you will find weaving through this story is the distinction between what is clean and what is unclean. These words can sound strange to our modern ears, perhaps a little judgmental. They weren't simply about physical dirt or hygiene. They were about order. They were about safety. They were about life. To be unclean often meant being physically vulnerable, for example, after touching a dead body, or it meant being spiritually separated because of a harmful action. The rules were a practical system to protect the health and well-being of the community, and to mark the path back to wholeness. Think of it like this. If someone contracted a contagious skin disease, the rules provided a form of quarantine. That wasn't punishment, it was compassionate public health to stop spread in a dense camp. Similarly, if food would spoil quickly in the desert heat or carry disease, there were clear rules about what was safe to eat and what to avoid. The laws were a form of divine care, like a parent teaching a child. The goal, preserve life, keep the community strong and healthy, and create space where people could flourish without constant fear. These laws also reached beyond bodies. They shaped the soul of the community. Leviticus gives powerful instructions on social justice, fairness in business, paying workers on time, leaving the corners of the fields unharvested so the poor and traveler could eat. It commands, love your neighbor as yourself. A holy community is a just community. God's concern goes beyond tabernacle rituals to every interaction in the marketplace, in the fields, and in homes. Another major theme that pulses through this book is the idea of sacrifice and atonement. For many of us today, the image of animal sacrifice can be jarring and difficult to understand. It feels distant, even primitive. But if we look past the surface, we find a profound human truth at its core. The people of the camp understood that when you do something wrong, when you hurt someone, break a promise act selfishly, it creates a rift. It damages relationships with other people, with God. The sacrifices were a physical, tangible way of saying, I am sorry. I recognize the harm I have caused, and I want to make things right. These offerings were not magic tricks. They were not a way to bribe God or to simply erase a mistake without any change of heart. They were an outward expression of an inward reality, repentance. When a person brought a gift to the tabernacle prized animal from their flock, humble offering of grain, they were bringing a piece of themselves. It was an act that cost them something, showing that their sorrow was genuine. It was a powerful, symbolic gesture. It declared a sincere desire to be welcomed back into the community and into a right relationship with the divine. Let me pause here for a moment. As we walk through this ancient story, trying to understand its layers and bring its meaning into our modern world, it reminds me of the work that many of you do. If you are a creator, a teacher, or anyone who makes content about these timeless narratives, you know the challenge is making the old feel new again. You have to find the right words, the right images, the right ideas to help your audience connect. One that I have found quite helpful is called Vidic. It acts like a creative partner. It helps you research what people are searching for and shows what topics are resonating right now. It gives practical insights to shape your content more effectively. You can find a link in the description below. Now, let us return to the camp. To the people. To the powerful rhythm of life they were learning to build together. Life in the desert camp was not an endless series of solemn rituals and strict rules. Leviticus paints a picture of a life with a beautiful and necessary rhythm, a pattern of work, rest, remembrance, celebration. At the very heart of this rhythm was the Sabbath, a day set apart from all the others. Every seventh day, the entire camp was commanded to stop. No work was to be done. The fields were to lie fallow, the hammers were to fall silent, and the people were to simply rest. This was not a rule born of laziness. It was a profound gift of restoration. Beyond the weekly Sabbath, Leviticus lays out a calendar of sacred festivals, annual celebrations that marked the changing of the seasons and commemorated the great events in the nation's history. Each festival was a story told through food song and community gathering. There was the Passover, which remembered the dramatic liberation from slavery in Egypt. There was the Feast of Weeks, which celebrated the first harvest of the grain. And there was the Feast of Tabernacles, where people would build temporary shelters and live in them for a week, remembering their ancestors' journey through the wilderness. It can be easy to get lost in the details of Leviticus and see it as a cold, restrictive legal code. But if we take a step back, we can see it in a different light. Think of these laws not as the rules of a distant king, but as the careful prescription of a loving doctor. Imagine a physician who sees a patient who is weak, disoriented on a long and difficult journey. The doctor's instructions might seem strict. You must rest. You must avoid these foods. You must take this medicine at this exact time. In the moment, these rules might feel like a burden, but the doctor's motive is not to control the patient. It is to heal them. The rules are given out of care, designed to bring the patient back to health and strength. The laws of Leviticus functioned in much the same way for the people of Israel. They had just been freed from centuries of slavery in Egypt, a system that had crushed their identity and broken their spirits. They were a traumatized people, learning how to be free. These laws were God's prescription for their healing. They were a framework to help them build a new, healthy identity as a people set apart for a special purpose. The rules about food, clothing, daily conduct were designed to create a distinct culture, one that looked different from the oppressive and often violent culture surrounding them. While much of Leviticus deals with ritual and holiness, some of its most powerful and enduring passages are about simple human justice. The book repeatedly insists that a holy community must be a just one, and it pays special attention to protecting the most vulnerable members of society. The laws are filled with specific commands to care for the poor, the widow, the orphan, the foreigner, those who had no power or social standing to protect themselves. This was not an optional act of charity. It was a foundational requirement of living in covenant with God. The commands are strikingly practical. Farmers were told not to harvest their fields to the very edges, but to leave the gleanings for the poor to gather. Lenders were forbidden from charging interest to their fellow Israelites who had fallen on hard times. Employers were commanded to pay their laborers their wages at the end of each day, because that daily wage was what the worker's family depended on for food. The book even institutes the Year of Jubilee, a radical concept where every 50th year, all debts were to be forgiven, and all land was to be returned to its original family owners, preventing the permanent creation of a landless peasant class. Furthermore, the book is unequivocal about the importance of impartiality and justice. It says plainly, Do not pervert justice. Judge your neighbor fairly. So, as we bring this ancient story to a close, what does this book, Leviticus, have to say to us now, living in a world so different from that desert camp? Perhaps its greatest lesson is to simply pay attention. To pay attention to the small choices that make up our days. Holiness is not some mystical, unattainable state reserved for saints and prophets. Maybe holiness is found in the ordinary, daily acts of choosing love, choosing kindness, choosing justice. In the way we speak to our family, the way we conduct our business, the way we treat the stranger. How will you live with others? Build walls, build bridges. Protect the vulnerable, exploit them. Create space for rest and celebration. Let the endless demands wear you down. Remember mercy for others. Remember mercy for yourself. These simple, profound choices shape our character and the world around us. Woven together, they create a life that is set apart, a holy life. Think of that tabernacle one last time, a simple tent in the middle of a messy, noisy, human camp. A place where heaven and earth met, a place where people could come to be made whole again. It had rules, yes, but its heart was care. Its purpose was restoration.